Hey everybody, it's Road to Recovery once again doing a live Monday morning chat. And the purpose of this channel is to be able to facilitate aid to anyone who is in the struggle with porn addiction, just trying to beat the habit. And through that, we were able to become better, stronger, and wiser. Being able to beat the addiction is one of the best things that can happen in your life because it had this one thing that's holding you back. And the purpose of the Monday morning chat is it gives me the opportunity to interact with anybody who has questions, comments, or concerns about their addiction or just wants to talk about the recovery process in general. I just want to be able to open myself up to anybody who just wants to talk. And so that if you want to participate, I would just hope that you're using an anonymous account and you can come on in, use the chat. It's live, we're recording it. And if you have nothing to talk about or you just want to sit back and listen, that's fine because if I don't interact with anybody, I will talk about the things that I want to talk about, which is what I'm going to do right now. Last week, I didn't have a Monday morning chat because the prior night, Sunday night, we had gone to go see Dune 2. And I say we, the family, and we had a blast. I got to go see it in IMAX, and Dune 2 I like sci-fi, and I got to see the original David Lynch series back when I was a much younger person. And actually, the Lynch series was pretty cool too. It was cool in its own right because they used all practical effects. So this time around, obviously, there's a lot of CGI, but man, was it grandiose! It's good stuff. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting. Like when I think about the David Lynch series, right? I got to relate things back to my porn addiction because, it got fostered when I was in when I was actually a preteen, actually. But when I got into my teens, um, right around when that David Lynch series was published, like I knew everything I thought there was to know about pornography, man. Like I knew how to access it. I knew the branding of the pornographic magazines that were out there at the time. So, when a lot of people that are in modern day times, like a person who's like, Gen Z, going all the way up to millennials, they think that, the stone age of pornography was not as bad as it is now. And while it's true that you could access a lot more content and there's no barriers at all, like you can go and as long as you have a device of some sort, you can access pornography. Um, it was still easy to form an addiction in the magazine days because there was so much of it. Like, it's difficult to comprehend, but back then, the printed media of pornography was just saturating society. I mean, you can listen to my stories of a porn addict series where I talk about when I was younger, I used to be able to take my bicycle and go down the road. And if I went far enough or in the right locations, I would find discarded pornography on the side of the road. Like that's how prevalent it was. And if I was ever hard up, there was always the Sunday papers, which had uh, risque bra and panty advertisements in there. So that's the level of pervert I was. And I'm smiling about it because it's just funny to talk about. But that it's I don't get mad at myself at all about that stuff because in that is typical teenage um, sexual attraction that I think every single teenage boy goes through. So pornography, when it was saturating society, facilitated a definite need in me. I think the problem is that when you're growing up inside of a porn saturated culture, is that you get acclimated through the habit formation process. When it's always there, there almost becomes this bit of entitlement, but there's even more of it. Like, there's more to it than that. It's more than just the nature of what entitlement means. That I can go get the pornography whenever I want to. There is also the dependency issue, which is, your brain gets put into a habit of constant need and satisfaction. So wherever the need arises, the reward is there if you go looking for it. And we've kind of amped up as a digital society. We've kind of amped up that um, facilitating the reward aspect of what's going on. So now rewards literally at the whim, right? With a very minor effort, you can go find pornography, and that is the nature of the beast right now. Is that there's where there used to be some barriers, like sometimes you had to either go pay for the pornography. There was this financial transaction. You can call that the economic barrier, and I'm not going to take that call right now. And so where there was like either a financial barrier or a physical barrier to accessing the pornography, now there's like almost no barriers. I mean, some people can be elitist and say, I only watch OnlyFans, right? In which case there still is like an economic barrier. But even to that, any service that's out there right now providing pornography, you can still go do some digging. You can still go to some digging and be able to find something that's out there, that will be able to get around that barrier. And I'm not advocating piracy or anything like that. It's just, there exist torrent services, which hello is how I got busted. Um, and there's other services that are out there that'll allow you to just kind of like, sometimes navigate that so you can still find things for free. Um, yeah. And I think all of that equates to where we're living right now. And this is where I'm going to switch topics and kind of talk about having to work, myself being in my 50s and having to work with people who are currently right now in their 20s, right? I've got a lot of sponsees that are in their 20s, and seeing this generational, what you would expect to be a generational divide, is not much a divide at all. They're all going through the same crap that I went through, all of them going through the same crap that I was going through. So and that's the true nature of the beast. Like, no matter what age bracket you kind of see, whether you're talking about somebody who's in their 60s, right, or somebody who's based on the similarities that you're dealing with, right? You're not dealing with some sort of socio economic, um, you know uh, problem, right? You're dealing with specifically an issue of addiction that formed from the production of pornography. And when we talk about pornography as a business, it is a business model. Pornography is a business model, right? um, the nature of pornography is to facilitate profit from the exchange of risque sexual images, right? The people who actually produce this do it for profit. And the nature of the beast is, I watched it develop online. I watched it from a big publishing of Playboy, Penthouse, High Society, Hustler, you name all those large public. I mean, Larry Flint literally became a multi-millionaire from producing pornography. You could say the same thing about Hugh Hefner. Like, these guys were like founders of, hey, how do we take this nice, Bob Guccione? How do we take these, these images, a nice medium that has a specific quality to it, and be able to use this to deliver sexual content for a profit, right? That's the business model. It's pretty straight up. And all technology did was it shifted from a publishing industry, over to, it tried digital publishing, it didn't work, over to a content industry. And when it became a content industry, you had the rise of the aggregators, the Pornhub, the X videos, all of these services that are using, not only their own hosted content, but are deliberately asking the audience to just give them the content. And so that enabled what was the huge difference between the publishing industry and our current day industry. The publishing industry had to rely on producing the content. They were the producers, right? And what's happened now? We no longer have true producers. We have the user industry. So the user industry, if you're the content creator, you're going on and you're trying to get a piece of that pie, right? And the consumer is still occupying the role of consumer, right? But the person who owns everything, who owns the servers, who owns the licensing, who owns um, the actual publication material, everything that is being done from the production standpoint is owned by usually a multinational conglomerate, right? So big rich people are doing big rich people things. And that's how things change. Like it changed on a dime, and we all we had to do was have that first guy who took. I forgot that gentleman's name. Remember the first person who became a millionaire? That was so long ago. That was early '90s. I can remember a stack of routers in the background, and he had rooms. So his gig was he had rooms set up with cam operators. That's how old cam operation sites are. Like he's been doing this for ages. But in the '90s, he had cam operators working inside of a room, and he had this interview where there was a stack of of networking hubs like behind him, so you could see the routers, flashing as he was talking. And it's evolved to where it is now. It's really crazy to think about it. So where am I going with all this? Is I want you to kind of understand that there's a level of exploitation that's happening here because the people who own these large conglomerates, when we talk about the mind geeks of the universe, um, they are reducing their costs so astronomically. Like it's all marketing now. Their biggest cost is marketing. It's crazy to think about. Um, they don't have to spend money on content acquisition anymore because there's plenty of people out there who are willing to just produce content, sometimes for free, but usually for like a penance, a tiny piece. And so these cam operators on, say, I don't know if you want to call it, YouPorn or, um, WeChat or whatever the services that are being used right now. Um, all these content producers that are out there that are producing are making a small piece of the pie. Like most of the actual profit is being generated by the people who own the ad services, and they are just racking in the dough, man, just racking in the dough. And it's a model that was copied from other industries when we talk about the online model right now. All they did is they just amplified it because pornography is such an easy sell. It really is such an easy sell, which is kind of hilarious that marketing would be the number one expense for a company like Pornhub, but they market the crap out of things. And honestly, I think the marketing that they do. I mean, yes, they were building brand recognition, but a lot of money that they were spending was not for their consumers. Believe it or not. You know who the money they were spending on, why they were spending on it? They were trying to spend that money for brand recognition for their advertisers. As a matter of fact, I remember reading in one of the lawsuits, one of the things that struck me was that Pornhub was robbing their advertisers. Basically, um, they were engaged in a scheme where they could cook the books, so to speak, on the number of page views that were happening on individual porn um, porn sites. Or no, I shouldn't say porn site. Individual content creators. They were racking up the individual numbers on those so that they could make more money off of the advertiser. So it was an advertiser related scam that they were engaged in, and they were doing it a lot. Um, and part of the problem, see, back in the publishing days, which is something I used to work in, there were third party agencies. One of them was ABC. There were third party agencies that did nothing but audits that would audit to make sure that if you published that piece of content, that you weren't just throwing it in the local dumpster, that it was actually going out to eyeballs that were actually reading it, right? And scams that the newspaper publishers used to do, the reason why they were doing that is because newspapers used to end up in the garbage. It's true. Used to happen all the time. And online, the industry to protect advertisers still really isn't there. There really isn't a good audit process for these folks. Now, you shouldn't feel sorry for the poor porn advertiser, right? You shouldn't feel sorry for them. I'm just trying to explain to you how big of a business this actually is, right? Even the small time cam operator is tied into a much, much bigger animal. And that animal, the machine that it is solely built on trying to gain as much profit as it possibly can. So the addiction that you foster is at your expense to their profit. That's the nature of the relationship. That you're helping monetize somebody else. You're helping put somebody else in that nice Mercedes Benz while you sit there and waste hours of your life in front of a screen jerking off, right? That's what I like to kind of relate to the young guys. It's like, you're engaged in this. This is a process in which you're helping sacrifice valuable time out of your life to help fulfill theirs. And for what reason? Are you are you better off for pornography? Are you a better person because you watch porn? No, you're not. You're not a better person because you watch porn. Are you in any way fulfilled as a human being? Are your life goals being accomplished because of pornography? No. No, none of that's happening, right? So why are you watching porn? Well, because it feels good, right? What other things feel good? Success, right? Success in your career, success in your personal life. Are you being able to meet any sort of social goals? Do you have social goals? Are you engaged in any sort of, growth from your own personal, whether it's spiritual path, and if you don't necessarily have a spiritual path, your own, social life, right? Are you engaged in any philanthropic? See, I cannot talk this morning. I got to drink some more coffee. Are you engaged in any charity organizations? Are you engaged in any sort of social causes? Right? Are you doing any of that? Why not? Right? Or probably because you're spending a lot of time either gaming or watching pornography. I spend a lot of time on this channel sacrificing my personal time. Now that's all me. That's me living my 12th step, right? But feel for me every time I help a person attain sobriety, every time I help a person attain sobriety, I feel that there's a sense of accomplishment from being able to help others. That all the lessons, all the hard life lessons that I learned could finally be passed on to somebody else so they can kind of conceptualize it and make sense to them, that they don't have to keep going through all of this. Because I would love to have all those hours I wasted on pornography back. And when I say hours, I'm saying probably months, months of time, solid, nothing but pornography. You added up all the time I spent consuming pornography, I'd probably, have taken away 7, 8 months of my life away of just solid pornography watching. And I'd probably be modest in that estimation. And it impacted me in other ways. Like there's other ways in which that robbed me, that probably compounds the situation. If I wasn't engaged in other social causes, right? If I wasn't actually helping other people out because I was too busy watching porn, think about the way in which the impact of that thing not only benefited society but robbed me of other potential chances and opportunities, right? There's always a compounding effect in all of this. And for the young guys, you have to really understand that. Like, the missed opportunity now, while there'll probably be other opportunities in your life, who knows what that could have done for you, right? And I don't want you catastrophizing things. That's not the point of it, right? The point is like just acknowledging that, yeah, there were missed opportunities, lots of missed opportunities. But you know something? Let me give you the happy news right now. You've got right now. Right now, you can turn things around. Right now, you can say, damn it. Yeah, this was pretty time consuming. This was a habit that perhaps has robbed me of a lot of different things. Maybe I'm already experiencing some of that loss right now, right? Maybe I've already got, elements of shame creeping into my life. Maybe I kind of recognize that I've kind of, looked opportunity in the mouth and kept walking, right? Don't think about the loss anymore. Don't think about what could have been. Don't catastrophize anything. Think about what you can do right now to get going. And if you haven't started your sobriety path right now, if you haven't tried being sober, maybe right now is your perfect opportunity. And all you have to do is just first start off admitting that, damn, I got a porn problem. I have a porn problem. And what can you do about that? Well, you can take this moment right now to say, today is going to be the day. This nice, happy, sunny Monday. This day right now is the day. It's going to be the first day of my sobriety. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the ways that I consume porn, whether it's on my PC, phone, other digital device. I'm gonna look at all those ways that I consume porn, and I'm going to analyze where and when I consume the porn, and I'm going to put together a tiny recovery plan. And that recovery plan is going to say, I'm not going to use these devices in these specific areas unless I do X, Y, Z, right? So you put up little rules for yourself. And then you say to yourself, bottom line, I will not use pornography again. I'm not going to use pornography again. And that's a good start. But you got to make the recovery plan. And the recovery plan is going to tell you the where, whens, and hows. And I would also suggest that you go dig a little bit deeper and see if there's ways that you can start working on yourself. And what we do inside of recovery programs is we do a lot of the working on ourselves because we acknowledge the fact that the addiction is usually the end. It's where we end up at. It's not the beginning. The beginning of where the problems start usually are a little bit deeper. Character character problems. The character problems can tell us about our laziness, our unwillingness to let go of things, our inability to check our ego. A lot of those things tie in to the formations of addiction, and sometimes it gets a little deeper. Some guys go through a lot of abuse, right? And I'm not talking about just sexual abuse, just abuse in general. When you're suffering, when you're going through either anxiety or going through a lot of suffering, you tend to bond with the target of your addiction. But the addiction again is the end, it's not the beginning. Getting to the beginning, trying to figure out these what we call character defects, trying to understand the character defect and trying to work to improve yourself is the real sauce. That's the thing that's going to help you out. So this concept of recovery, about sobriety, it's not just about staying away. Sure, we resolve that we're going to stay sober from the thing that's causing the addiction, right? We resolve to do that, but it's not the final solution. The final solution is getting to the bottom of what causes the addiction. And oftentimes it's like I said, it's character defects. And those things take time to resolve. And it also requires effort on your part, being able to accurately analyze and diagnose your own character defects. Maybe when you come home, you feel completely lazy, like you're not motivated to do anything. And the first thing you do is you either jump on your computer or you jump on your PlayStation or Xbox, and you just numb out, right? You just zone out. It's like, hey, here's this interesting thing I want to do. And I'm just staying quiet for a second so you can process it. Because there's some people out there that won't see any problems with doing that, right? It's like, oh, what's wrong if I just spend like an hour playing a video game? How many hours are you going to keep doing that, right? What could you have been doing in the meantime? what aspect about your personality is not being developed or worked on because you're doing that? What did you lose? And these are all questions, man. They're all valid questions. And if you can't answer any of them, or maybe you just don't give a fuck, right? That's pointing to another character problem. See, a person like me can't help a person who doesn't care, right? That's why we say inside of recovery programs, it often takes a person, um, unfortunately, hitting rock bottom for them to have success in recovery, because the people who haven't hit rock bottom haven't felt true pain yet, haven't felt the pain of what that addiction is, and all the summation of all the things that got them to where they were. But I firmly believe that you don't necessarily have to hit rock bottom in order to start now. That you can start thinking about these, start opening up your mind, man. Start really thinking about the things that have brought you to where you are. And what I like to do is I like to use some of the recovery literature. I believe that in SAA, for example, the SAA workbook, which is free online, is a fantastic start, because once you could start working the steps, it guides you through the process of doing some of that deep thinking, lots of inventories. It does. You don't necessarily have to. That's just a free thing. The Patrick Carnes book, Facing the Shadow, is a good one. I've talked about that here on my channel before. It's also a good one for being able to get to the root cause of things. Some of the big books are pretty decent, um, for being able to get to the bottom of it, but ultimately, it's about your effort. And these things that I'm talking about, these workbooks, are just tools into the recovery process. But you have to first admit to yourself that you have an addiction, that your life is not feeling right, that there's something lost. And that loss is all that time you spend in pornography. But it could be in other things, right? So for some people, it's alcohol. For some people, it's drugs. For some people, it's gaming, right? So I don't make any distinction between behavioral addictions and, say, drug addictions, because while drug addictions can potentially be more potent, they all manifest in the exact same way. A person who's gambling online and can't stop has got the same sort of crap going inside of their mind as a person who's hitting smack. It really is. It's like the release of dopamine is happening at a faster rate for the person who's doing the hardcore drugs, but the dopamine release is still happening for the person who's a gaming addict. It's still happening for the person who's a porn addict. As a matter of fact, I've talked about it before, but a lot of the guys who are inside of the S rooms, and I'm in PAA, Porn Addicts Anonymous. Um, the guys who I talked to who were also drug addicts found that the sex addiction was the hardest to break. It just is. It's a part of what you are. You can't divorce yourself of your own sexuality. It's it's nested into you. You can never leave it. It's always there. But what you can do is you can control the triggers, like all the triggers that manifest inside of your mind because of your porn addiction. You can you can identify them and you can stay away from them. Absolutely. All right, we don't have any chatters tonight, so I'm going to call this Monday morning chat, uh, make an end to it. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, I am currently shadow banned on Twitter yet again because I posted an article. I ended up deleting it Sunday, and once I had it enough time to circulate, hey, I posted a research article, and it was promptly identified because it has the word porn in it. It was identified as having that nasty keyword, and I was shadow banned yet again. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about Twitter. I can't post any articles that have the word porn in it. I can't use the word porn. I can probably type prawn or corn, but damn it. You know, you wanna like Elon Musk for the freedom of speech things, but when you use the word porn, it's like 1984, man. It's like everyone's posting porn on Twitter, but you actually use the word and you get banned. It's like, come on, man. It's like I post nothing but recovery work on Twitter. Nothing but recovery work on Twitter. That's all I do is post recovery work on Twitter. And I get banned constantly. You would think I was the world's biggest pornographer online. I'll stop bitching. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. Take care and stay on that road to recovery. And certainly, you can either drop a comment down below. I try to keep up with things, or I'll still follow my DMs on Twitter, even though they keep shadow banning me. So feel free to reach out if you have any comments, questions, concerns. Take care of yourself and stay on that road to recovery. See you guys.